acclaimed, of course, for my unique red skin and unparalleled skills as a general of the House of War, I, the Red Prince, was raised within the vast palaces of the fabled Forbidden City. I was destined to become the next emperor. But my ambitions suffered a bit of a setback when I fell from grace for cavorting with demons. Now, I'm exiled and hunted by assassins. But I assure you, I remain undaunted and as determined as ever to claim my rightful throne.
It all happened like I knew it would. A single drop of source magic. And, like flies to honey, the monsters swarmed. The rebel panicked. The carnage began. And the Magisters pointed their fingers at me. Just as I'd planned. I was shackled and collared and sent to Fort Joy. I'd come here to kill Godwoken. But instead I became part of their story.
So, still a bit groggy, are we? Don't worry, the sedative will wear off soon enough. Easy now, no need to hurry. Get your bearings and report to me upstairs.
What a way to wake. Wooden boards and iron shackles. The Divine Order's hospitality leaves much to be desired indeed. Junk.
It seems as though there's a pattern in the floor. That can't be natural.
My, these smelling salts are strong stuff.
No lesions, no trauma. It was bled by magic. No marks, no indications of a struggle. No marks, no indications of a struggle.
What a well of knowledge this tome is. Dallas is such a dear lending it to me.
No marks, no indications of a struggle. No lesions, no trauma. It was bled by magic.
empty.
Everything's spick and span. Nothing left to do, really.
No known associates. In fact, he seemed quite averse to spending time with the others. This is a rare kind of magic. I'll need to write to headquarters right away.
Why, you're looking a bit more... There you are. Not too tight, I hope. The collar, I mean. Oh, not to worry. Every dog has to get used to its leash. In the meantime, your next stop will be Magister William. All passengers have to be registered in the ship's manifest, and he's the chap in charge of the logs. You'll find him on the other side of this deck, in the officers' quarters.
It seems as though there's a pattern in the blood flow.
Why? Because we're at sea, of course, and have been for several days.
Index fingers pressed to her lips, she pauses a moment to give you a scrutinizing gander.
My word, you do seem a bit befuddled, don't you? Perhaps I was a bit too generous with that sedative. Oh, well, I'm sure you'll soon gather your wits. Most likely. Eventually. In the meantime, all you need to know is that we're en route to Fort Joy. A new life awaits, and if you're a particularly good boy, perhaps a cure as well. An end to Source. For good. Why, for my peace of mind, of course. Why don't you try casting one of those Source spells of yours? See what happens.
Currents of magic surge inside you, boiling, bursting, then breaking, only to fade back into your soul like rain into the earth.
My, look at the concentration on your face. All will, but no result. There you have it. See? The collar's function. It neuters you of sorts. Makes you unable to cast Source. For your own peace of mind, of course. Yours and the whole world's.
Good gods! There's been a murder here!
No marks, no indications of a struggle.
Behind the Magister, a bloodied mass lies in a heap. Gore and limbs lie at odd angles. You can't make out a face amid the mess.
There's been a murder. A sorcerer was killed by one of your own. Lucky you were busy getting your collar fitted at the time, or you'd be a suspect like the rest of them. Waters is investigating. She'll figure out who did it. Always does. If you have nothing to hide, I'm sure it'll go just fine. Bloody lizard.
No marks, no indications of a struggle. Ugly sight, isn't it? Burns me up this happened under our protection. We're extremely lucky no Voidwalker followed the source that did this. Dallas is such a dear lending him to me. Finn didn't see it like that. He was desperate for us to help him. Two things scared the living daylights out of him. His own shadow and his own source. We'll find out who did this. Speaking of,
She looks up at you with a mirthless smile.
I was on duty in your room when the murder happened. You were asleep the whole time. Didn't even stir. You're one of the only indisputably innocent people on the ship. Unless you can commit murder in your sleep, of course. Figured as much. Listen, I could use someone to keep their ears open among the passengers. Sometimes they clam up in front of a uniform. Bring me a good lead, and I'll throw in a shiny gold coin for you. How about that? Thanks. I just want to catch whoever did this before they hurt anyone else.
An elf sits tucked away in a dark spot, lazily rolling dice onto the surface of a barrel. They sound like the dry cackling of an old witch.
Snake eyes.
She chuckles.
I bet that's just what they'll look like. Rolling dice. Deciding fates. Don't worry, honey. It isn't yours.
She looks you up and down with the merest hint of a coy smile on her lips.
Never say never, though.
She eyes you quite seriously.
Not the future, no. But I can read the past in flesh. One of the perks of being an elf, you see. I'm quite good at it, too. I could lick your arm and tell you how you spent the night before last. Shall I?
She gives your arm a vigorous stroke of the tongue, efficient like a cat grooming.
You were in a cellar with other sorcerers. As everyone lay sleeping, your hunger gnawed and gnawed at you until you could stand it no longer. Finding the cellar door ajar, instead of trying to escape, you snuck into the pantry like a common thief, only to find nothing but rather questionable turnips. There you stood as a magister walked in, still hungry, feeling a mighty fool.
Mad? Insufferable, surely.
She pats you on the shoulder consolingly.
There, don't you worry, darling. Your secret's safe with me. I don't lick and tell.
Your kind always hung closest to our divine, like wolves around a campfire.
Well, you've got this wolf on a leash now.
Soon as the Inquisitor gets here, we'll hang you right over the side of this ship with it. I'm busy watching for clues, sorcerer. Go take your sub-story somewhere else.
Ask what you must. I've nothing to hide.
A scruffy man lounges against the wall with scarred arms folded. A sly smile playing on his face, he stares across at the Magister guarding him. Noticing you, he straightens and beckons for you to come closer.
Watch your back, new fish. There's a murderer on board, and I'd bet 3 months' pay it's this Trampifan.
Rolling his eyes at the Magister's warning, the man named Ifan beckons again. He leans in and adjusts your collar with a sharp tug, balancing its weight so it no longer presses unpleasantly on your neck. He winks.
Pinches less that way, right?
Hocking a phlegmy gobbet in your general direction, the sullen Magister settles back to his task of glowering at Ifan. And now, you.
We used to know each other, more's the pity. I was his commander many, many, many moons ago. Isn't that right, Vic?
Standing far back from Ifan, the tight-faced Magister draws one finger across his throat in an elaborate fashion, but says nothing. Ifan grins, flashing pointed white teeth.
Same as he was at 14 years old. Only difference is somebody gave him a bigger sword and now he's Johnny Big Pants. Long story. Maybe I'll tell you about it in the Joy. Away from interested parties. No. The dead man, Finn, is it? I'd no business with him. And I wouldn't put a man down without good reason.
He glances over at Magister Victor, who's staring back at him with pointed intensity.
Damn shame sheer annoyance isn't reason enough. The Joy, I've heard a lot. Nothing good. No surprise there, since Bishop Alexander runs the show. Wonder if we'll get to meet the Ringmaster himself. Easy now. I might think the same, but Vic here will blow a blood vessel if he hears you talking like that.
What are you conspiring about over there? You, Lizard, what's your name?
Oh, don't mind him. Vic's just got a bee in his bonnet. And that bee is me.
Name?
Magister Victor looks at you suspiciously, then scrawls something illegible down in a tiny notebook. He scowls at you as he stows the notebook back in his voluminous robes.
I'll find out. I always do. Now away with you, at once.
Ifan performs an elaborate pantomime of keeping quiet, one finger in front of his lips as he leans back against the wall.
Can we just skip to the part where I reassure you and you shut up?
You think me mad?
Mad? No. Insufferable? Surely.
What are you trying to hear anyway?
I'll tell you if you can keep it quiet long enough for me to listen.
My prince.
The cook bows slightly and wipes her hands on her gruel-stained garb.
Forgive me, Your Highness. I didn't expect... well, anyway, whether I had more than cornmeal and rotting roots to serve, I'd concoct something more fitting for one of your stature.
She nods and smiles wanly before returning to her duties.
They don't care about us. We're like cattle to them.
I'll give you that knuckle if you keep carrying on.
A broad dwarf sits totally upright on the bench, eyes closed, palms face up on his knees. His beard is a cascade of meticulous plaits, each one braided through with golden medallions. He raises an eyebrow as you approach, but doesn't open his eyes.
Listen up, boy. You hear that?
He turns his head toward you, looking you up and down, and smiles before turning his attention to the ship once more.
You look like a boy to me. Listen if you're interested, or get gone if you aren't. The ship, of course.
A wave of sound washes over you. The unintelligible chatter of your shipmates, the groaning of wood from floor to ceiling, the boom, crash and crackle of waves around you, complaints from the sea itself.
And?
The fellow cocks his ear, listening.
That isn't anger, it's...
He cocks his ear to the other side, then smiles.
anticipation. She senses something. I'd hold on to my breeches if I were you, mate. That's all you hear, though. Listen close. There now, just like that.
Squeak!
Aha!
His eyes snap open as his countenance breaks into an expression of joy. One great paw claps you on the back. The other catches you before you lose your footing.
There. You heard it, didn't you? I knew it. I knew it. Aye, this is good news, boy. Good news.
There's a killer about, after all.
It's the wheel. The wheel. Don't you see, you beautiful idiot? Squeaks whenever the helmsman jerks it clockwise, which means we're heading east. Burn my beard. That means if we've been traveling for, yes, only 10.34 nautical miles to Fort Joy.
Your kind always hung closest to our divine, like wolves around a campfire.
Captain, actually. And that figure tells me we're getting close to the Joy. Close to what lies beyond it, too.
The dwarf leans back from the table and strokes his beard, gold medallions jingling merrily. His eyes roll over to you.
That'll be all. Thank you kindly, boy.
Never thought you'd end up a prison guard, Vic.
That right? I always knew you'd turn out rot. Your kind always hung closest to our divine, like wolves around a campfire.
Well, you've got this.
Why won't you sing?
Ah, there you are. Husband. Would you please tell this very charming gaggle of not-at-all brat-like babes that I am by no accounts this Losa woman, nor do I sing, in fact. I'm deathly, deathly allergical.
Bloody dwarves, I'll come back to you, and you better be ready to talk here.
Oh, they're not so bad. At least not when they're treating me, Madam Josephine Gribble de Peeb, with due deference.
The children break out into giggles.
What? What's so funny?
Her pinched face cracks into a great grin, and she shoos the children away from her with a laugh.
Yeah, okay, you found me out. Go on and git, and maybe I'll sing you something when I'm good and ready.
She turns to you, dark-eyed and dirty-haired, and smiles flatly.
Gotta keep ourselves entertained, haven't we? You presume right. Nope. Trying not to find anything out either. Ignorance is bliss. The utterer, the better.
Suddenly, her eyes cloud to an unnatural black. Greyish veins run down her face, and her mouth tightens into a cruel sneer. As quickly as they came, the clouds clear. She smiles as though no change came over her.
Good luck, Chief.
Listen.
The elf is reading a volume of Cranley Hubert's famous encyclopedia. He looks up, his big round eyes scanning your body, absorbing every detail. He reaches out, flicks a finger against one of your scales, and rubs his chin.
Fascinating.
He sits back and returns to his book, flicking quickly from page to page, completely oblivious to your presence.
"7 years? What an infinitesimal period! Why would anyone... Oh dear. I seem to have crossed some cultural taboo. How... difficult. You have my apologies, Lizard. Perhaps I should demand the same from those red-cloaked humans. They laid their hands on me more than once. Ah, yes. The niceties. My name is Fane. I am a scholar from... well, I am a seeker of knowledge. That is enough. It is pleasurable to meet you. Is there? Wherever do you keep it? Certainly not in your books. I have been reading this one for several minutes, and I have yet to find a single insight into the mysteries of the universe. It is simultaneously too detailed and insufficient. I know the beginning of this tale and the end, but I am rather missing the middle. Tell me, what do you know of our world's history? Most unusual, and if it's not too rude to suggest, not much of an answer. No, I want to know about the Celestial. I want to know about your gods. This text tells me that they created all creatures, but nothing of what came before. Where did these gods come from? Who are their people? Where are the others of their kind? Of course you don't have any useful information. Why did I expect anything else? Now please, run along. I have a world to decipher.
No amount of pestering will get the elf to take his eyes off his book or respond to your questions.
Right over the side of this ship with it.
Here to register, sir. Good, good. Magister Williams is just about done with the last passenger. You faring okay so far? Trust me, with Bishop Alexander in charge, things will get a lot better from here on out. He's God-woken, you know. You head on in now. Williams will get you sorted fast.
Keep those bombs trained on her, and if she tries to run, shoot to kill.
Standing at the center of the room, you spot a sorcerer haughtily eyeing a pair of nervous-looking magisters. They keep their crossbow trained upon her as she's being interrogated by an officer.
So you admit it then? You murdered that poor fella?
Yes, I did. But of course, that was only the beginning.
She turns her head and looks you straight in the eye.
There are others whose lives must end.
Good God, the woman's mad. You there, sorcerer, go and fetch Magister Siwan. We need to do more than collar this maniac. We need to shackle her, hands and feet.
It means your journey draws to a close. Do stick around for its finale, though, because...
She reaches for her collar and simply removes it.
I'm just about to create a scene.
Subdue her, men, quickly! If she casts source, the Voidwoken will come. They'll end us all.
She smiles with wicked satisfaction.
Precisely.
What's happened?
wolf lies in a heap on the floor, his great beard twisted and tangled around him. He is stock still. You can't see if he's living or dead. You hear a faint thud, thud, thud. He's alive, but only just. The Magister lies on the floor, unconscious. The hound paws desperately at its snout. It winces as it draws blood from its wet black nose and continues scratching. The dog notices you for the first time and snarls, the hairs on its back prickling as it lowers itself into a lunge.
You sorcerer!
It sneezes suddenly and paws at its nose once more.
Can't smell
Can't breathe. Too much sauce. Too much. Too much.
Please, make it stop.
Sorcerer.
The dog whines and continues pawing at its nose.
Not long before this thing snaps into splinters. Damn! That doesn't bode well. Onwards and upwards!
Gods. By divine grace, who was that howling?
He eyes the collar circling your neck and reaches a hand towards his blade.
Another sorcerer! Like you don't know? Mutiny! Did that witch fix your collar too? Go on then. Find a place to hide and stay there. You need to find a hiding place.
The hound paws desperately at its snout. It winces as it draws blood from its wet black nose and continues scratching. The dog notices you for the first time and snarls. It sneezes suddenly.
Can't smell. Please, make it stop.
The hound sees you reach for your weapon and growl.
Not long before this thing snaps into splinters. Doesn't bode well. Onwards and upwards.
Thank the gods. But
He eyes the collar.
another sorcerer. Like you don't know? Mutiny. Did that witch fix your collar too? Then the mutiny ends here. this wreck and quick! What's it blazes? Something's pounding on the hull!
You pass through the door and are suddenly face to face with an undead. His skull is bizarrely angular, and a glorious jewel sits in the middle of his forehead. The skeleton is quickly leafing through a volume of Cranley Hubert's famous encyclopedia, muttering to himself.
No, no, no! What damn fools record knowledge on a pulped tree? It catches fire, it turns into must when wet. It cannot even resist acid. No wonder they're so bloody ignorant.
The skeleton looks up and notices you for the first time.
Oh, it's you. Shouldn't you be running and screaming or some such?
The skeleton groans and looks back to his book, frantically flipping from page to page.
I know your god did not gift you with much, but kindly used the little you were given. Do you look at me and think, why yes, there is someone with organs enough to drown? Trifling matters like water and poison do not concern me. No, damp robes are the most I have to fear. Once this glorified skiff hits the sea floor, I will simply walk to shore. Whereas you, I believe, have lifeboats to pointlessly squabble over. Remember, one of your race's weaknesses is having your lungs filled with water until you can no longer breathe. So, try to avoid that, perhaps.
The skeleton resumes his search, leafing through page after page, while hunching over the book in a futile attempt to keep it dry. The marking on the door was painted recently. You press your palm against the door to open it. The wood, it doesn't budge. The door groans open, but
Ancients, I need to get off this ship.
dwarfs first, just like the old stories say.
The dwarf yanks at one of the nearby ropes to no avail.
But there are other people down there. We need to help them.
Do you see those tentacles, kid? It's time to get the hell out of here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you! There's a ladder right over there. You can go straight down.
You're gonna be the death of us, you hear?
The Magister lies on the floor, unconscious.
If you could walk, get yourself up the ladder. There's a boot. Wait! Void broken!
These beardless bugs won't sink the ship on my watch.
I thought Void Broken was supposed to be scary. Let the games begin.
I've faced worse.
Away! The sea's hungry. We don't have much time. We make a pretty good team.
I hear something. It's Magister Sin.
She tries to speak, but can only gape as she clutches her neck, trying to stem the bleeding of a gushing wound. With jagged movements, she raises her clenched fist and holds out a length of cloth soaked with some kind of strong-smelling tincture. Blood quickly soaks through the cloth. Magister Siwan's mouth opens and closes, her eyes wide in terror. It's working. The pressure is stemming the flow of blood. Siwan clutches your arm, her eyes locked with yours. Something within the ship snaps. The floorboards shudder. Siwan struggles to her feet, clinging to you tightly. The ship lets out a deep groan, then cracks.
He's ripping the ship apart! This is it! She's gone!
I have plans for you, child. Rise.
Honorable Dallas, we lost a ship sailing sorcerer prisoners to Fort Joy. We assume some escaped and broke their collars. Their vile magic lured the Voidwoken. All who were aboard are presumed dead. Yours faithfully into eternity, High Judge Oriven.
Which is entirely appropriate, if you ask me.